Hello, this is Jenny Luscombe, and this is Feeling is Healing, and we're up to episode 19. And today we're going to be talking about control, and we're going to hopefully by the end of it understand control a bit more. And as usual, we're going to look at that within ourselves and outside of ourselves as well. So before we start, oh my God, how is everyone? So much has happened. So I haven't been here for a couple of weeks because it was half term. So I had a lovely break, but it has made me feel like I haven't been on the radio for ages, and things have gone a bit time warpy. And obviously we've just had the election. And I famously don't do politics really at all. I'm an observer of it. But I am a big fan of self-government and feel like I'm trying to sort of get to that through what I do in my life. So big group hug. I hope everybody's okay. A lot is going on. A lot. So I'm going to start today with a couple of personal stories, but not going into a massive amount of detail because wouldn't really make sense. But the reason that I'm going to tell these stories is because they're both connected to control, and also they kind of demonstrate how much power, I'm going to use the word power rather than control, how much power we have to receive what we're looking for in our life as opposed to what we're not looking for. So we can, in inverted commas, control our reality, but that's not really the right word to use, I don't think, in this context, because the way that I'm going to be talking about control is when it has a negative influence on you. Obviously, there's a positive, there's a dark and a light to everything, as I always say. So we all love to be in control. We love things to be predictable, until we don't. So anyway, a few weeks back, I can't remember which show it was, but I covered the scapegoat pattern. I think it might have been a couple of shows ago. And this is something that all of us who are on the spiritual path are experiencing. So the first story is about how the scapegoat pattern was playing out in my life. So over the last, I would say quite a few months, with one particular person, which happens to be my daughter. It's been playing out all my life. All my life, I've been controlled by others in not good ways, and didn't always see it. Sometimes did, sometimes didn't. But what I've been going through with my daughter, and I know that she wouldn't mind me talking about this, because I'm who I am and I have alternative perspectives, and I'm a very big fan of truth, and I don't see the point in anything really that isn't that. I've had struggles with my daughter about who I am and what I stand for and the things that I talk about, but that's not really anything different to most of us on this spiritual path. We've been seeing and hearing and sensing things that other people don't necessarily. And the complicated situation that I'm in my family is that my daughter's dad, who I'm no longer with, has very, very different views to me. And although things are relatively amicable, and they haven't always been, but they are now, she has like a very interesting perspective because she has her dad's perspective, which is very, if something happens in the world that I need to react to, then I will react to it. Whereas I'm a lot more, you need to prepare for this thing that you can see coming, because I think it's safer to be in reality and to look after yourself in terms of what you can see, what you can feel, what you can hear, what you know. So over the course of the last few months, she's been finding things that I say scary and difficult, and that makes sense. And I've never made her the bad guy about it. But I have always felt a bit frustrated that she can't allow me to be who I am. So there's been an element of attempting to shut me down, which is quite a trigger for me because many people have tried to shut me down in my life. So it's kind of felt like a pattern of no resolve, like whatever I do, this thing bubbles up again because the only way that I felt like I could get peace was to be shut down and to be censored and to accept that, she's just a kid and that kind of makes sense and I need to be the adult and just let that happen. But also, being a parent, it concerned me that I was, because kids always look back on things and they never miss anything. You know, I didn't want to set the example of allowing myself to be controlled by her. And so I was quite often showing her, it when you shut me down and you don't let me be me and you don't allow me to speak and just have my difference to you, it makes me feel unloved or it makes me feel like I'm unacceptable or, whatever the thing is. And it was different each time it happened. So we kept having this falling out and it seemed unsolvable. And so anyway, I did one of the shows about the scapegoat pattern, and we talked about the black sheep of the family and how the strongest member of the family who sees the truth, speaks the truth, is always subconsciously targeted by some of the others who don't want to see the difficult truth. They don't want to go there, like they have an incapacity at that moment and they can't allow themselves to merge with your truth, and that's fine, that's okay. So anyway, I felt like I was in a very wonky and difficult situation, and a miracle occurred which I didn't see coming, but I wondered if it would, but I'm learning to not try to control everything, and we're all control freaks. I mean, we are, because we've all been controlled and it just makes sense that we are. So anyway, I worked on this scapegoat pattern and I sat with the pain of not feeling accepted by my own child, like the pain of wondering where this is going to go and fearing that she would disappear off into the matrix with her dad and that there'd be some sort of separation. I sat with the pain and all the emotion and the betrayal and the feeling of not being loved and not being seen. And yeah, I had a terrible few days where I just dropped into it, and all the different times of my life came up, with my parents, my sisters, friends, partners of the past, like loads, 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 loads. Because I have a Pluto complex in my astrology, which means birth, death, birth, death, rebirth, death, rebirth. And it just goes on and on and on and on. So I'm wondering if Pluto going into Aquarius is going to change that. Yes, please, if the universe is listening. So anyway, I did this inner work. I sat with the scapegoat pattern and I asked for assistance. And then literally the next time I saw her, everything was different. And I think this is when you hear people talk about timeline jumping or quantum leaping, and it doesn't sound real. And most people are like, really? But anyway, like she was totally different this next time after I worked on that pattern. And I asked her, what's happened here? Like, what's changed? And she actually said, and this was totally unprompted by me, she's 14. She said, well, I just had this moment where I thought about everything and it felt like that what really mattered was love. So you could have knocked me over in that moment. So literally, my own child is teaching me unconditional love. I mean, I'm teaching her that because much as it has pained me, I've allowed her to be her. She wanted to continue to go to school instead of being homeschooled. She wanted to sort of stay mainly at her dad's, where she sort of got her life as the teenager, you know, the friends and like everything. So I've had to sort of let her go and then let her go again and then let her go. I've had to do like radical letting go of my own child and letting go of being accepted by her, which was what the scapegoat pattern was all about. It was all about jumping into, I don't need you to approve of me anymore because it's hurting me by having that need. So I let go of the need to be approved of by her. And that's when the miracle happened. So that's when she decided to choose love. And now I can talk about anything in front of her. It's an actual miracle because it was so sort of difficult and tense. So that's the first amazing thing that happened. So since I've realized I've busted this pattern, I've wondered how this is going to show up in other regards. So I've recently had like a very difficult time with a friend who I've known for quite a long time. And it's been one of those situations where, you know, like in Scooby-Doo, where the kids are kind of like, you know, who done it, and that then they go on their investigation, and it's the haunted theme park or whatever it is, and then at the end they piece it all together, and then they pull the mask off, and they're like, it's the janitor, and it was the janitor all along. And this is what's happening to so many people that I know, clients, friends, like people that it's just been coming up. So I thought that this person was a certain way, you know, I thought they were supportive. I thought that there was love there. I thought a lot of things were going on in this friendship that actually weren't, as it turned out. So and I'm not going to go into details with that, but I've realized that busting the scapegoat pattern. And like when I was tapping and I was letting go of all of that pain, I did feel a massive sort of shift in my body, like an unwinding. It was weird. I don't know if it was Kundalini energy, like what it was. But I've realized that it has helped me see the truth of my own personal matrix. So when we talk about the matrix, we talk about, you know, we're mainly going on about what's happening in the external world, like, for example, the election and the politics and the governments and, you know, the deep state, like everything that's going on that they're pretending isn't. So I've realized that since the scapegoat pattern has done one and I've moved it, and then I've got my daughter back and I've been accepted and approved of by letting go of needing to be approved of, that there's a kind of massive spotlight shining on loads of people, like loads of people that I know and that are in my life. And it's showing the truth. And what we're all doing is we're figuring out, are they with me? Like, who's with me and who isn't? So we are all control freaks. And like one of the things that I'm here to do is to teach that ultimately we do have control over the things that we thought we didn't. It's just a skill that we can learn. So, and I don't like the word control because it has negative connotations, but there's nothing better than feeling like we're in control, like we're on top of things. Like, who wouldn't want that? So we're all control freaks. We're all control freaks, all of us. We were controlled by our parents. We are controlled right now by governments. Like, we don't know yet what it's like to not be controlled. So we're at the beginning of a new epoch. And with the election result that's just happened, I mean, I don't do politics, but I do know that with Trump getting in, that, you know, he can't be bought. And the powers that were are going to properly fall now. I mean, they've been falling for a long time. So the control systems around us are on their way out. And we have never known this. So when you look at how we keep control, like we have a boatload of ways of doing that. So we might have like an OCD type thing. We might compulsively wash our hands or do things in a certain way or only walk to work a certain route instead of going a different way. Like we have ways of doing things that we kind of trick ourselves into believing that we're getting more safety doing it that way. But what we're really doing is we're looping. And that's what the powers that were want. And if you look at like emotion, say, for example, anxiety is an attempt to control reality, which we cannot do. We can't control reality. We can learn how to move with it and to flow with it, but we can't control it. So if you have anxiety, what you're really trying to do is make the unpredictable nature of reality predictable. And that's never going to work. But, you know, we have lifetimes of anxiety finding that out. So also things like denial. Denial is a form of control. So that sounds something like the truth is going to take me down and I can't handle it. So we subconsciously hear an inkling of something that might unravel the fabric of our own existence, and then we put up the barrier and we don't go there. We just don't go there. So what I'm kind of seeing is that we're all in this, all of us, and nobody really wants to admit to being controlling. We're very kind of like, you know, we can be angry and aggressive if we discover that someone is controlling us. And I don't see a problem with that if we're reclaiming our power and if we need to show somebody our boundaries and maybe they stomped all over them. I think that's okay. But we're all deep in control because we have been controlled. And what we're doing by self-healing is we're trying to regain our power. Because when we've regained our power, we're in alignment with ourselves, which means there is no need to control. So what I'm going to be doing in this show is talking about how letting go of control can lead to embodiment, which leads to you letting more light in, letting God inside take up residence, which ultimately leads to safety. So everything is upside down. And I think the flip is happening now where everything is going to go the right way up. But it's going to feel like everything's going upside down. But we're just going up the right way. So at the moment, most of us think that we have to control everything. We have to control everything. We have to control other people. We have to control situations to stay safe. But it's actually the opposite. So I've got some questions here, which I'm not going to answer, but I think that they're really important questions to sit with. So the first question is, how am I controlling other people or situations or attempting to control other people or situations? How am I doing that? And is it working? So this is a really, really good question to ask yourself because it gets yourself seeing yourself from other people's perspectives. So has anybody pulled you up on being controlling? And if you are being controlling or attempting to control other people or situations, is it worth it? And look at the good reasons that you have for doing that. So ultimately, we think of others controlling us as the bad guys. We don't want them to do that. But why would they be doing that? So in this situation that I've been in, where I've suddenly seen the truth of someone, I've seen aspects of them that I hadn't seen before. I've had to sit with the horror moving through me of thinking that I could trust somebody when I'm kind of faced with, okay, it's just pretend. It was that person all along that was holding me back. So it's kind of clarifying, and it's always good to land in truth. But I've had to move through the horror of that and the betrayal and the anger and the sadness and the cringe of it, that sense of, oh my God, how could I not have seen that? How I must be stupid to not have seen that. Like all the emotions. Like if we're trying to control somebody or something, we've got good reason. It doesn't mean that it's okay that we're doing that. It doesn't mean that it's okay that someone else is doing that. It's not okay. It's not nice to be on the receiving end of. And it's not nice for someone to be on the receiving end of you if you're doing that. So if you can get outside of yourself for long enough to see, why would I be doing that? So often this is because sort of as a result of trauma and childhood stuff, like sometimes people cannot directly ask for what they need. So they cannot ask for what they need in a relationship. They can't ask for, I have this need, I have that need, I would love if you could meet this need for me. Like they can't go directly there. They think that they have to manipulate to do that. So sometimes people can learn that the only way to get love is to take it. So that narcissistic side of things kicks in, and it's like, okay, I have to trap someone to get love, or I have to control the outcome so that it can work out well for me because I can't directly go there. So if that's something that you think you might have learned as a child, just let yourself feel compassion for yourself. But in this energy, it cannot go well if you keep that going. So awareness is healing. Feel all the emotions of that. Tap on any of your meridian points and let yourself move through that. So ask yourself, how am I controlling other people and situations or attempting to do that? And vice versa, how am I being controlled by other people, or how am I being controlled by situations? And I can testify that if you sit with your emotions and sit with your situations and with these dynamics, if you sit with them for a few days, you will pop out the other side and you will find plan Bs that you didn't know were available when it comes to people, situations. I noticed today on the channel on Holistic Radio, somebody, sorry, I didn't notice who it was, but somebody posted some stuff about the Celestine prophecy, which reminded me how much I loved that. And I sometimes go back to that every now and then. So what I noticed in this post, which sort of applies to this topic of control, I think it was round about like the fifth insight, or it might be in the fourth, somewhere around the middle, um, is that as a result of the human experience, we get disconnected from source, and then our whole life is about reconnecting to source, which is what we're all doing. It's what we're all working through at the moment. So we get disconnected from source, and then we try to make our way back, and we think that the only way to get energy, to receive love, is to dominate others, to take the energy. to steal the energy, to trick another person out of their energy, to trap someone into giving you something, to manipulate it out of others. And obviously, vice versa, others do it to us. So, this is the human experience, and there's no judgment. So, the big battle, if you zoom out and then zoom out again and then zoom out, is we're in a kind of like learning hologram about free will, about what free will means. So if you could ask yourself, with control, there's always an invasion of free will, either your own or someone else's. So ask yourself, how am I invading the free will of others? And how are others invading my free will? Because you don't see it when you're in the middle of it necessarily. You will feel unsettled. You'll feel all kinds of things. You'll probably feel limitation, I would say, whether that's in relationship, whether that's money, whether that's work, like whatever that is, there's a limitation. There's kind of like a blinkered thing happening. So yeah, think about that. How am I invading the free will of others? How are others invading my free will? And we know that the systems and the entities, it's all about agreements and contracts. It's all about, okay, um, you know, it's all about consent. And if we didn't know that we were consenting to something and we were tricked into something because someone was trying to steal our energy, then that's okay to snap out of that and then say, actually, no, I'm not consenting to that. Once you see that that's happening. And also, the other person, they might not have realized that they were even doing that consciously. So, a very common theme is that people around you and situations around you can be keeping you small, can be sort of keeping a lid on you, manipulating your reality without you realizing that that's happening. Possibly kind of through judgment or shame, influence, controlling your choices. Like the flip that's happening now is all about being in your life now, surrounded by people that are for you and not people that are against you. And like we've had a boatload with this scapegoat pattern. And, you know, I'm sitting here telling you I've released the scapegoat pattern. There's layers. I don't know whether I've released it fully, but like this flip is collective. So open the door to realizing that something has changed for you in this regard. So all of that black sheep stuff, all of that scapegoat stuff, all of that not being allowed to exist as you, just sit with that and feel into it because it's shifting big time and the tides are changing and it's so messy. Oh my God. It's all so messy and controlling other people and being controlled by other people, it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. So what I'm proposing is for you to do parts work with me. So we've got two parts, and I want you to close your eyes, tap on the thymus point in the center of your chest or the side of your hand underneath your little finger. And I want you to imagine that you've got these two parts of consciousness that you're going to call upon. So one of them you might not even know exists yet, but it does. So I want you to see the part of you or feel or sense or kind of try to understand, try to visualize the part of you that needs to stay in control, that needs to be in control of everybody, everything, because it thinks that there's no other way. And this has been going on all your life, probably to varying degrees, and we're all on this spectrum. So here's the controlling part of you that feels like if I don't control everybody and everything, something bad is going to happen. Like those people, they don't know how to live. I have to manipulate and control the outcomes for those people because otherwise something bad would happen to them and something bad would happen to me. So I want you to see the part of you that can't ever relax, the part of you that's in survival mode, spinning plates, part of you that's not safe. So imagine them sitting in one chair in front of you. Just notice how they look. What's their vibe? And then in the other chair, in the other hot seat, there's the part of you that just lets the divine take over. And this is the part of you that doesn't need to control anymore because it's learned that it doesn't get you anywhere. It's learned that it doesn't get you what you want. It doesn't get you the people that you want, the situations that you want. It doesn't show you who you are. It doesn't show you anything good. So this part of you is letting go and letting God. This part is not controlling. So to simplify, there's the part of you which is the controller, and then there's the other part of you that is letting go of control. Because letting God take over, letting the divine just be, is far more likely to work than the part of you that's spinning plates and trying to get everybody to do what you say, trying to get every situation to have the outcome that you want. So these are polar opposites. So the first one we're going to go to is the part of you that is the controller. So just allow yourself to sort of be with that part of you and ask yourself, how is this part of me behaving? How is this part of me feeling? How is this part of me doing? What is this part of me doing? And you're probably all thinking immediately of certain situations that seem like there's no result. It seems like whatever you do, you never quite land. You never actually get to the good thing. So this part of you can't ever stop. This part of you can't ever relax, and it's hard work. This part of you's in survival mode. So this part of you is fighting, freezing, running away, hiding. This part of you thinks it's in charge. Now, we had to think that we were in charge to survive. This part thinks that it knows better than God. And this part of you has been doing that all of your life. And it feels scared, and it feels like panic, and it feels there's a frantic energy, there's a burnout. This part of you feels like it is the doer. I have to do. And this part of you has a tense body because this part of you that is the controller believes that it has to be strong for other people, which is fair enough. And we're all holding other people up, or we think we are. But what you might not realize is if you've got this having to be strong pattern, what you're actually doing energetically is you're having to be strong, you're having to be strong, you're feeling that tension in your body, you're putting a brave face on it all, you're trying to control it all. If you do that continually, perpetually, you're just going to attract more situations that cause you to need to be strong. Is that what you want? So just sit with that for a minute. So if you've got tension in your body right now that you're tuning into because you're listening to this part of you that is the controller, then just feel into that sensation. Where are you feeling that? So that might be in your shoulders, in your neck, in your back, in your stomach, in your legs, in your hips. It could be a full body experience. So just say to yourself, this part of me has got good reason to feel like it needs to be strong all the time. But if you're kind of realizing now that you are in this pattern of I have to be strong, I have to be the strong one, it's not helping. So I would recommend sitting with the tension in your body and the belief that you have to be strong. Sit with that sensation every day until that sensation isn't there anymore. Because you will be doing the opposite of that in that sitting. So you will be allowing the emotion of the difficulty and the pain of having to be in control all of the time. You will move through all the layers of emotion until you just reach your own vulnerability. And vulnerability is a powerhouse because as soon as you hit vulnerability, you're in courage. So yeah, this is not an easy part to be with. So let this part of you speak, hear what they've got to say. What is this part of you feeling? So this is the narcissistic part of you. And we're all narcissistic when we go into fear because that's survival mode. It makes sense that this part is here after everything that you've been through. So you might judge this part. And if you do, just let that come up. We don't need to fix or change this part. We just need to be with it. So this part of you that is the controller has kind of got itself into a twist of the belief sort of sounds a bit like, I have to go against myself to survive. I have to go against others to survive. Or maybe I need to save others from themselves. I need to stop them from destroying themselves. Now that makes sense. If we love people, of course we want to stop them self-destructing. But what if non-interference is self-mastery? This is one of my new favorite statements, but I can't remember where I picked that up. So we interfere with others' paths like all our life, thinking that we're doing something good. But what we're actually doing is preventing them from learning, preventing them from making mistakes. We're preventing them from failing, from succeeding, from failing, from succeeding, which is what life is. So this part that thinks it's in charge, this part doesn't know that it doesn't have to be in charge and that actually everything would change and get easier if it just plugged into source. Now, this is not something that you can just do. It's something that you have to practice, and it's something that you have to ask source for. And you can do that by asking questions like, who am I? What am I? What's here? So we can ask our source, how do I get to just be source flowing through me? How do I get to be the unique flavor of source that I am instead of this game of pretend that I'm trying to shake off? So look at this part this way. This part doesn't want what God wants. This part doesn't want what the divine wants. This part is fighting source energy. So just sit with that. Sit with the question, why would I go against God? Why would I go against my divine source? Why would I think that me controlling other people and situations, why would I think that I can do a better job than synchronicity, divine energy flowing through my body? We're all doing that. And this is not like an exercise in shaming, it's just an exercise in awareness. As soon as you see that through your control, you're actually trying to do a better job than the divine could do. So we're talking about moving towards embodiment, which is what many of us are consciously trying to do. So just send love to this part of you. And I would listen to this on the replay and keep pausing because the questions and things need to be sat with and gone into, and get your pen and paper out, answer the questions, and then really look at what you are doing and not doing in terms of interference and control in your own life and in the lives of others. So I'm just sending love to all of these parts of you that are the controllers, that think that they are in charge, the ones that think that they are the doers. We had to think that we were the doers because we had to be lost in order to find ourselves. So let's just let that part be there in all of the shit, all of the messiness, all of the outcomes that don't work, all of the pain, all of that emotion. There is a better way. So I would suggest letting this part of you speak, cry, complain, fight, freeze, all of it. Go back to your inner children and see how they were controlled. Of course, it makes sense that you would be doing this. So I'm sending love to this part of you. And we're going to flip to the other part of you. So maybe this part of you that needs to control, maybe this part of you can listen to the other side. So these parts might not be aware of each other, but set the intention to introduce them. So let's go to the other side of the coin, this part of you that lets God take over. The part of you that does want what God wants. The part of you that is flowing. The part of you that doesn't need to control because it's learnt that it doesn't get you what you want. It doesn't get you who you want. It doesn't get the outcomes that you want. Nothing good can happen from control. And this part of you knows that. And it might be a dormant part of you that hasn't been activated yet. And that's okay. So really go there, feel the vibe of this. This is the part of you that has let go or is letting go. This is the part of you that trusts. This is the part of you that is keeping the faith. This is the part of you that knows that the divine is in charge. This is the part of you that allows that to take place instead of blocking it. So this part knows it's not in charge. So the ego, which is you, your name. So my ego is Jen. Your ego might be Fred or Dave or Claire. Your ego is not in charge. And this part knows that. This part has let that part let go of being in charge. So this part is learning to be what's coming through instead of thinking that it's the doer. So this is about handing over to the divine. This is what surrendering is. And sometimes people get a bit confused by surrender because it feels like giving up. And it is a giving up, but it's a giving up in a good way because it is ultimately making life easier and it's making life work. And there is nothing else. Life is it. So we've literally been strangling ourselves. The other part of us has been strangling us. What if we don't need to do that anymore? So what if non-interference is self-mastery? We've been interfering with ourselves and other people for so long. What if we are just God, in the unique flavor, the unique fragment that we are? So this part is allowing in the you-ness of you, which is source energy. And when this energy flows through you, instead of you focusing your energy on fixing and changing other people and situations, when this flows through you, there is no need to control because you just realize that everybody's just on their path. And it's so hard to do. Like if this is about your kids, if this is about your partner, if this is about your job, your house, your home, like it doesn't get much harder than this. But it's the journey that we're all on. So there's a unique flavor of you coming through you. And this is what alignment is. And we don't know what that's going to be like until we let it in, which is why trust comes into it. So trust ultimately is allowing others to fall and allowing others to rise, allowing yourself to fall and allowing yourself to rise, allowing yourself your path and allowing everybody else their path. It's the only way to get anything done. So this part of you that just lets the divine take over, that doesn't need to control, is basically just eating popcorn, still with free will intact. So the divine is flowing through you uncontrolled, but you still get to direct how that's going to look to a certain degree. You have free will within that. Anything else is just fighting yourself. And why, as soon as we become aware of that, why would we continue to do that? I think it was I'm trying to remember who it was what's his name? Kyle Cease. I don't know if any of you follow him, but he does like these really he does these really good conversations where he manages to help people shift their perspective miraculously. It's so beautiful to watch. It's amazing. And you shift yourself when you're watching that. Um, yeah, I was watching him the other day working with a lovely lady, and it was when they got to, because she was trying to control everything, and it was when they got to the part where she was acknowledging, okay, this part of my consciousness doesn't want what God wants. It all kind of fell into place for her. And that it kind of fell into place for me as well. Like as soon as you can see that there is no good outcome that can come of controlling others and situations, if the alternative to doing that is to let the divine in. It's one of those where it doesn't make sense. Even though you've been doing it all your life, you're like, wow, well, why would I continue to do that now? So keep coming back to this. Keep coming back to this part of you that thinks it's in charge and this part of you that knows it isn't. Because this is where we're all going. And the magnitude of the energy right now is off the scale. Like we're actually seeing the external reality now change miraculously. So, what does that mean for our internal? It is absolutely biblical and epic what's happening now, and I couldn't be more excited. Okay. So, I'm going to stop now because Jackie and Doug are on quite soon. I think it's 5 to. So I hope that that's helped some of you out there. And I know that you're all going through these kind of situations because it's what the energy is at the moment. It's all about free will. It's all about being invaded. It's all about being who we are, reclaiming our power. Um, Power is, similar to the word control, isn't it? Power. We can have power over people, or we can be in our personal being in our personal power. Everyone else be in their personal power. I don't know about you, but I can't wait. My normal. That, can't wait until the majority have got just don't feel it from other people and don't have that look good for anyone or feel good. So anyway, I'm going to stop there. So thank you everybody for coming. Does anybody want to have a quick word before I stop? Okay. I'm going to stop there because I think it'd be good to have like 5 minutes sort of changeover. So thanks, thanks Joyce, and thanks Jackie and Doug. Thanks Andy. Um, yeah, and I'm not quite sure what I'm going to be doing next week, but we'll see what presents itself right in the next week. Oh my God, anything could happen. Literally anything. Stopped it there. I was pleased with my thumb over the stop. And then he said, does anybody want to jump in? I thought, oh, no, I wouldn't want to leave. That's funny.
Thank you very much, Jenny.
It's probably like
fascinating. We're looking into the insights of individuals and how it all melts together.
Oh God, yeah, it's mind-blowing to me. But yeah, thanks, Andy. It's funny when like if you stop something a bit abruptly like that, because it looks like you know, like a guitar player would smash up their guitar and kind of like go off in a huff. Anyway, yeah. But yeah, thanks everyone.
We'll say good evening to Douglas and Jackie. They've unmuted the mic, so good evening to you both. Hi, Andy.
Hi.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear
Can
you.
you hear me?
Hello.
Yes.
We can hear you.
We can. Oh, fab. I couldn't see it when you could or you couldn't. Nothing's happening on my screen here for some reason. What is it?
Let go of controlling it, Jackie.
Yeah, that's exactly what I should do. Oh yeah, that resonated with me. Great.
Thanks for listening, everyone. But yeah, I'll leave you to it. I'll stay on Andy and listen in, but I'm gonna go and make some tea and stuff. So I might not be, if you try to speak to me, I might not be very attentive. But I like listening in the background.